women.
Got a
That
question.
is the reason why.
Got a question for ladies. Okay, so think about the guys you were just talking about right now that were like they're toxic but they're hot and you want to stick around with them. More like maybe in your case there's more than one, but like the guys who that you invested a lot and Jesse, you too, you invested a lot of time in that guy and it didn't work out, or you knew you needed to separate yourself from him. But during that point, bring your head back to the point where you were still involved in that. Did you think at some point you were going to be with this guy for the long term? Did you think that he was going to have the potential to be like a husband or father or to be more than he was at that time? You were just sort of waiting him out. Do you
enter into it looking at it
because
like that?
the guy's very exciting, but you're kind of like hoping that he's going to go from the bad boy to being somebody who's a little bit more dependable. Would you agree with
Absolutely.
that statement? Like the guy
I
that you were
definitely-
with, like
yeah,
you saw
I
potential of
definitely-
him being a good long-term security bet.
But
I only saw that side, or I only had that disillusion during the love bombing phase, the 6 happy months. But when the mask turned,
was that
I
when
didn't
you first
still.
met him? Was that when you first met him?
When
You
I
were
first
like,
met
that
him.
first
Like it was
few
entering
months?
Right, when
into
things
it
were
thinking
going
it
well.
like that, but then
It wasn't when he
changes.
started showing toxicity that I was like, well, maybe he'll come back around. I didn't think that at all at that point.
But you thought he was somebody that you could be with for
within
the long
first
term.
6
In the long
months
term,
before she knew he
When
was
it was
toxic.
still in the love bombing and he pretended to be the perfect guy, yeah, of course. Anybody.
was I'm not gonna say this is a fantasy, but was the potential or the fantasy of him being something more than that? Is that what kept you involved in the relationship? Like believing that he could possibly, you'd fix him, right? He could be something more than he is, and if I just wait him out, he's going to be the guy that I can lock down for the long haul.
I didn't want him to be more than what he was. I wanted him to be the guy he eluded me to be, eluded himself to be. I just wanted
Did
that
he do
person.
that, or did
promise?
you think that?
No,
he
he
could
did
do
that. Like, unfortunately, my dumbass gave him my handbook. I literally hand wrote it and handed it to him. When he came into my life, I was 2 months out of being out of my first marriage. And it was in a group setting with friends, and he would come over and everyone would just take time, like, hang out with me so I wouldn't feel alone after my divorce. Every time that people were like, yeah, I can't make it today, I can't, everyone eventually dropped off but him. He was the only one still coming over to hang out with me. I would cry and I would tell him, like, I can't believe that my marriage after 11 years is over. Like, I knew that I wasn't in love with my ex-husband anymore, but it still hurt. It still was sad. It was the end of the only person I'd known since I was 18, the only person I'd been with. So I was scared to be single in Vegas, across the country from Miami, with no family here. And my ex-husband used to do this. My ex-husband didn't do this. He came in 30 seconds or less. And all the things that was going...
So you were comparing him. So you were comparing
30 seconds. Can we just hold up on 30 seconds?
all
And
the
you stayed
things that
6
my
months
ex-husband did wrong.
Oh,
And I was
knew what to
giving
do
him the
right.
handbook on
Lasted
how
11
to come
years.
manipulate me.
Yeah.
I gave him all the answers for how to appear to be the perfect guy. So as soon as I told him, hey, my ex-husband never planned a birthday for me. He never did this. He never did that. This man showed up and did those things times 10. And it didn't come off in the moment disingenuine. My beep boop beeps didn't go off. It didn't register to me that it was a manipulation. It just felt like I found the perfect person that was doing the things I was like, oh, so that does exist. This whole time I was in this marriage for 11 years and I felt like something was off, something was missing. And I was like, what if it's me? What if I'm like,
You always think it's you.
maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I need to, like, not be so delusional and think that there's this perfect person. And when he came into my life, he seemed like that perfect person. I was like, oh, so they do exist.
Okay.
But it wasn't after that.
So that's what the Tinder swindler sold to these girls as well,
Right.
was the idea
Right.
that there's a possibility of a long-term situation with that guy. That's what I'm asking right here. So, Monica, because you were with two guys that were sort of like this. When you were with them in the beginning, did you see, or did you think you could either fix them, or did you think that it was there was a possibility of a long-term situation that was going on there?
No, for me it wasn't. I already knew it would never end good. Like I knew I will never stay with these people because I was just not capable to leave them because I was just too in love. But I knew I was smart enough even then to know that this is gonna stop eventually. I just have to find the courage to finally leave. So, but like in
How long did you stay with those?
Well, in this first relationship where I was like really, like it was really bad. It was 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah, and But I knew. I mean, I knew because first of all, I respected my family always, and I didn't want them to like. I come from a good family. It would be a like I didn't want them to be unhappy, so I knew.
Did they try to intervene and tell you, like, try to wake you up?
Yes, yes. They even moved me to another country at some
They did
point.
an intervention and like, take you away.
Yeah, and then actually this is how it worked. That's when I changed schools because like dentistry is 6 years. So after the third year, I just stopped, and then I moved from this country, from Croatia to Bosnia, where I actually graduated as a dentist, and that's how the relationship ended because he couldn't reach me anymore. He wouldn't get there.
Ghosted him.
Yeah.
Did anybody else like have you ever been, because you were with other people before, right? When you first met them, were they like? I mean, they were probably very excited. I asked you if they were excited, but also was there the potential for something long term that you were hoping was going to happen, but it was never really going to happen? Anybody else?
Well, yes. I mean, I was with a guy that he was very abusive, but there was a child involved. And that's what kept me there. Not mine, but the mother wasn't in the picture at all. So the little boy, I basically raised him for like 6 years. But even though the dad was very abusive, I stayed because the little boy called me mom. I was like, I stayed because I wanted that boy to know that he was loved and it wasn't him. But then the wake-up call was the little boy was now like 8 and he was learning to be abusive like the dad.
Because it all starts from home. And I learned at the end of my situation also, I knew that he was also abused, and he was witnessing all his life how his mom was abused. So
Right. Well, I think with narcissists, just future faking is the nature, and then when the love bombing ends, the nature of that too is that you wonder why it stopped. But with all abusive relationships, you don't try to fix them, you try to fix you to make the future that they promised happen and to get the nice behavior back. So you are still hoping for that future, but there is a lot of you thinking it's you that needs to change to get it back.
because you think that you're the reason why he's like that.
Right, because he was so great. So then now that he's not, it's me.
Why did you stop loving me?
Why
Why
did you stop
doing
Yeah,
these
what am I
things?
doing wrong?
I'm glad you brought that up. The future faking, we call it future forecasting. Okay, so it's the idea that there's and by the way, this is actually part of really good game from back in the day, but it's presenting this sort of like fantasy scenario that can you just see us on vacation together in Tahiti?
Well, I think it's
It's called future projection.
Future projection.
It's future projection, mystery. Good job, mystery.
But it's not even so much that, but the idea that there's a future for us just right now from we only met 5 minutes ago, and I'm already talking about going on a vacation to Tahiti with you, and you're already there.
I'm gonna say something that no one should do. No one should do this. But I don't know if you're aware of this, but first class refundable tickets are refundable.
Evil.
And I've seen dudes, I'm not going to say who these guys are, but they've gone into strip clubs and said, hey, let's go to Tahiti. And like literally bought tickets in front of the girl to go to Tahiti or to go to Ibiza or whatever. And then like ended up sleeping with the girl and just canceling the tickets the next day. I'm not saying I know a guy who's done this a couple dozen times. Okay. But yeah, that's essentially what I've seen happen.
Let me address that because I like the future thing, but we'll continue here in a second.
Future projection.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a few, thank you chat for giving me this idea, because I had people who are saying, well, if women are all about opportunism, right, then how could they be suckered into something like the Tinder swindler? The reason for that is future forecasting, because they see long-term security in this guy, and that is part of the attraction to that guy, is not only that he's exciting and he's a Mossad agent and he has his own private jet, which is bullshit, but the idea is that I could be married to this guy and still live this fantastic, wonderful fantasy life to a Mossad agent, and I'm going to be, he's a diamond merchant.
So let me point out something. One of the things we say, rule number one in Men of Action, is we don't listen to the words. We only pay attention to people's actions. And what will often happen is if you guys had a male family member or a guy friend or cousin or whatever like that, a brother who could look at your relationship objectively and just look at the actions, a lot of time, like none of the girls who got hit up by the Tinder swindler, had they been my friend, I would have been like, no, let's take 5 seconds, let's search some tail flashes, let's look up some names. None of this is true. Let's contact this person. It would take 2 seconds, but the women they're so in it. They're just like swimming in the dopamine. So I would recommend this, because I don't give a lot of advice to women, but this is the advice I do give for women. Number one, only pay attention to actions.
You guys are so lucky.
Let me explain something to you. If a guy wants to marry you, do you guys know what he does? He asks you to marry him. Yeah. If a guy wants to fuck you, you know what he does? He fucks you. well, I don't know what, maybe he's just like dealing with work and there's this. No, listen to me. Guys, one more time. If a guy wants to be in a relationship, he asks you to be in a relationship. If you would take all the words in your relationship and throw them out and just pay attention to the actions and explain it to someone like me or Rolo, like just so third party, someone like that, we're going to be like, okay, now explain it back to me without the words. Do you see how it makes way more fucking sense now? So I would recommend, actually, no offense, not if you guys have a guy, impartial guy in your life, a brother would be perfect, a father, an uncle, someone like that who's like not trying to sleep with you, like someone in that capacity who can look at your situation objectively, take all the words out. You're going to miss a lot, like a lot of these things. Again, the girl who married the male stripper, like, ha, male stripper, ha. Oh, no, you're going to marry. Oh, wait, what? No, stop. Obviously, you're not going to marry him. Come on, what the fuck are you? But there's no, that voice doesn't go off in her head because she doesn't have that third party approach to it. She can't look at this thing from a 50,000 foot view and say there's no chance this is going to, or very little chance that this is going to work.
I messed up.
Yeah. So you having someone with some wisdom. Now here's the other problem. I have a lot of female friends that I've given this advice to. I give men advice and I give women advice. Anybody want to guess which of the two genders listens to my advice and which of the genders almost never listens to my advice?
male.
I can guess.
The men listen to my advice because they want to get in better shape, they want to make more money, and they want to be better with women. So they have an objective. I give them solutions to the objective. I show them irrefutable visual evidence, and then they do what I say, and they get the objective. With women, I tell them a thing to do, and it doesn't feel good. So they don't fucking do it, and they keep going back to the same dude over and over again, and they're upset. If ladies would just listen, like pay way more attention to the actions of the men and women in your life and pay no attention to the words. Imagine the entire interaction. Strip all the words away and just say, I was like, well, he showed up late, but that's probably because he was tired and he was hanging out with his friends. He was over on the west side and he did this all kind of stuff. I was like, okay, cool. Take all the words out. What happened? Yeah, he didn't show up last night. Oh.
The medium is the message.
Do you see how that makes way more sense if you just take the words out? He just didn't come home last night.